Hello my lovelies and welcome to another episode over here with me. My name is Molly May. I am a knitter, designer and vintage enthusiast, and today I get to talk to you about just that, my passion for vintage. As I mentioned in my welcome back video a few weeks back, I am planning on doing 2 knitting plans videos, one where I focus exclusively on my vintage pin-up wardrobe, and one where I focus on my more functional hiking, dog walking knits. This week we're going to look at my vintage wardrobe. Firstly though, what am I wearing? So this is a newly finished object and a design by yours truly, and a almost indecent dress underneath, which I only realised when I sat down. It doesn't look quite so bad when I'm standing up. I think this needs a little slip underneath, but I've started, so we're going to carry on. The cardigan itself is my latest design. It is the Vera V-neck, and it is a very simple raglan construction, very deep V cardigan that is knit up in sport weight yarn. Mine is from Rauma Finnell that I got when I was in Oslo, and the testing call is actually coming out tomorrow. However, I have popped a link below where you can apply immediately if you would like. So if you would like, please do apply below to test. I will give a much longer test knit for this one, as it is knitted on 3mm needles, but I promise you it's worth it. And I made mine in a little over a week and I wasn't even working on it exclusively, so you will be fine and you'll wear it a lot, and I can't wait to make another one, but more on this in my March makes video in a couple of weeks. I have paired this with a dress I recently purchased from Collective, who are doing a very, very impressive outlet sale where I got lots of beautiful things for a very, very, very low price. What I really like about this, and I'll talk a bit more about this as we go on, is I have picked out the navy in the dress and then paired the cardigan, which is a really simple, easy way of getting a slightly more authentic 50s feel, even though this is a reproduction dress. Having colours that match your dress, or picking out elements and tying them in, is a really quick way of having that really chic 50s look. So I'm very happy with how I've paired this today. When planning this video, I thought, how am I going to start? Inspiration is how I'm going to start. I've ruined it for you. I didn't even give you a chance to guess. I have a huge collection of Pinterest boards, and I collect images every day that help inform my style and what I enjoy. So I thought I would share some of that inspiration with you to give you an idea of the direction that we're going on. So first of all, a key word in my vintage wardrobe is pin-up. I love everything pin-up style, and I am a massive wannabe pin-up. So this is a really big consideration when I'm picking out especially silhouettes, but generally stuff for my vintage wardrobe. A very obvious but very true inspiration for me is Marilyn Monroe. I know she's like the go-to that everyone uses, but I genuinely love her and her style, and am regularly saving pictures of her and her outfits. Another more modern inspiration that's taken inspiration from the past is the marvellous Mrs. Maisel, which I find incredibly difficult to say. If you have not seen this show, go and watch it. I binged the entire series in one go. Sorry, not the entire series, the entirety of the programme in one go. Not that long ago, actually. I watched the first season and then I happened to forget about it, and then I rediscovered it and watched everything back to back, and I loved it. It's a fantastic show anyway. It's very funny. However, I just love I want access to her entire wardrobe. It's wonderful and colourful and chic, and don't even get me started on the hats. A general pointer is, if we're thinking about authenticity, generally I do not care. So if you're into true authentic vintage, I'm probably not going to be very inspiring for you. I like taking the vintage feel and bringing it into the modern day. That's, I think, in a summary of my wardrobe, is it's not an attempt to be accurate on timelines or represent outfits from a specific period. I just know what I like and fuse it with whatever I have access to. A lot of my wardrobe is reproduction vintage, not original vintage. I have a few vintage pieces, but the eras I generally drift towards are mostly concentrated in the 50s. I like a little bit of 30s and 40s and sort of early 60s as well. But if you think, that's a very long time ago, and a lot of these pieces are so delicate, and I'm not responsible enough to be entrusted with them. I actually hulked out of a vintage dress I owned. I was wearing it on holiday in Portugal, and I don't know what I did. I did something with my arms, and I ripped the seam on the shoulders. This is partly because the seams and the stitching is so old that it probably needs replacing, partly because I'm not careful. And then also, one thing I've really noticed with original vintage, is the proportions do not fit my modern figure. I'm very tall, I have fairly broad shoulders, and the one thing I noticed more than anything is not only are my arms about double the size of any vintage woman, but so is the armhole depth. I find the armhole depth really tiny, and have had to alter some of my original vintage pieces to get them to even fit in the first place. So if you're looking for authenticity, I am not the one for you. However, if you just like that style and try and achieve that style with what you have access to, then hopefully I'll be able to help. Have you heard of the sweater girls? This is a classic term from around the 50s of girls in their little fitted cropped sweaters with their little bullet bras and all their matchy outfits, and I love this period of time. I think I would love to be a sweater girl. It's also very closely linked to pin-ups. Again, if you want historical accuracy on terms, I'm not the one for you. This is a summary of the knowledge I have access to, but I thought it was a very relevant reference given this is a knitwear channel, and I'm going to be talking a lot about the kind of knitwear I want to wear with my wardrobe. So like I've said, every girl needs a Pinterest board, or 100. I regularly go on and save all of the things that I love, and then I look over it and try and spot trends and things that will inform decisions when I'm purchasing stuff in the future, or where I'm pairing stuff that I already own with my wardrobe. As you may be able to see from some of these pictures, I love girly, feminine, cropped, fitted items that accentuate an hourglass figure. I also love colour. I'm particularly drawn to blues and pinks, but I just love the whole rainbow and want all the colour in my wardrobe. So that's going to help me inform my choices going forward. So I've cherry-picked some things from my wardrobe to give you a feel of what I own, what I wear frequently. I will caveat this with, I have a giant suitcase that's a state on the floor here that's piled up high with more than 50% of my wardrobe that just doesn't fit right now. I've picked out a couple of pieces that I could see from on top that do not currently fit, but will do again someday. But it's more to give you an idea of the vibe, because whilst I am currently pregnant, I am not planning my wardrobe based on that. Far from it. I'm very much looking forward to getting somewhere in the vicinity of my shape back so that I can wear all of my beautiful clothes that I've collected over the years. But this should hopefully start giving you a feel of my wardrobe. So as you can see, loads of colour. Loads. I love colour, which never used to be the case. I used to dress from head to toe in black and had my hair black, and I just wanted to disappear, and oh, that got dark quick, didn't it? And then I did a lot of work on myself, and whilst even though you might find it hard to believe, I actually don't like to stand out too much. I just dress in what makes me happy, and it just so happens that it's quite different to what a lot of people wear, and therefore I happen to stand out. But I just dress in clothes that make me happy, and colour makes me happy. So first thing you notice is colour. Second thing you may notice is shape. Again, because a lot of my pencil and wiggle dresses are in the said suitcase down here, you won't see as many of them, but you will see there's one here, another one back here. Wiggle dresses are a really big part of my wardrobe. I find them to be very flattering, and I wear them a bunch in a bunch of different colours. What's easier to show you, I'm getting so excited I can't breathe. What's easier to show you is the high knit-in waist and the big circle skirts underneath on all of these dresses. So there are some wrap designs. This is an original vintage dress I picked up from Mama Rumba's. Then there are reproduction vintage, like this one from Lindy Bop that has a satin effect. I also like slightly different materials because they give you a different feel, and I like layering different textures on top of each other. Again, it's like a sensory happy thing for me. I've got more dramatic girly pleasure in a 5-year-old dresses, feel like a Disney princess. And then I've got some more simple original vintage sundresses, although this needs altering because the armhole depth is not deep enough for these bad boys. But yes, here is some examples I wanted to show you so you get an idea of, you got your inspiration at the beginning and now you've got what my wardrobe looks like. Again, this is a highlight. I also have a big chest of drawers over there that's full of leggings and giant tops, so don't think that I dress like this all the time. Next, I thought I'd talk to you about a selection of hats that I've collected over the years. I have so many more than what you see in front of you, but I thought again I'd give you just a little feel of what I like. So how am I going to do this? Let me plop these down on the floor. So first of all, there's this one. Let me come close. Oop, he's popping out. This is actually the hat that I got married wearing. Oh, it's a little bit black fluff on it. So this is an original 1950s pillbox hat that I adore. The bow actually sits side on, as you can see from the elastic. So it sits like this. You can wear it like this. And I just absolutely adore this hat. Navy hats are a real staple in my wardrobe. This is one of several, but I really love this bow detail that sits at the back. So it's got a little head shape thing, goes on like this. Absolutely love this one. This was an amazing charity shop find. In fact, I'd say 80 or 90% of my hats I have found in charity shops, and I think a lot of them are from the 80s and 90s, but it's all about how you dress them. So whilst this definitely isn't from the period of time I like to dress from, I can make it look that way with how I style it. Another navy hat for you. So this is one of my absolute all-time favourite hats. It's entirely misshapen. It's been rained on far too many times, which is not meant to happen, but it is so amazing. And I want more like this. So it's actually, I don't know if you can tell because of the light, velvet with a satin bow. So it's like that multi-textured thing. And then it just sits on the edge of your head like this with the bow, and I just think it's so classic and beautiful and wonderful. So absolute favourite. Now this one Robert teases me for. He thinks it's ridiculous, but I absolutely love it, and it's also covered in hair. Black felt or wool covers itself with hair. It's very hard to get it off. It has a little squiggle design on the side. I sewed in the elastic myself because it didn't have any way of attaching it to my head. I thought that this was super 60s, and it makes me think of like beehives when you wear it at the back. I just think it's really cute and not my usual style, but I think it's really flattering. It just gives a really nice chic shape. I wore it the other day with a fitted black pencil skirt, my black Norma jean turtleneck and some black brogues, and I just think it was a very chic outfit, if I do say so myself. Lastly, I could not talk about hats and not mention this. This hat I made myself. I made it at a workshop with Sahar Millinery. I've done several workshops with her and intend on doing more. I love them. Don't get too close because I am no expert at hand sewing, but I absolutely love this hat. It has, I haven't attached it properly, you just thread it through underneath, so I'm going to take that hairband out the way, but I've designed it to sit at the back of the head. The little bow. If you're interested in how I made this, I have a really cool reel on my Instagram that shows the whole process of starting off with a dome of felt and ending with something like this. So as you can see from my hat collection, there are more neutral colours. They're a bit tamer for the most part, but again, lots of blues and pinks. Let's talk accessories. So Let me just get close to the camera. We'll go through these and I'll chuck them on the bed, which you're currently balanced on. There's a few things with tags because I literally just picked them up. So I've got lots of cool belts, which are a really great way to bring a splash of colour to a boring outfit. I say boring, a more plain outfit, a more tame outfit. So recently I picked up this from Collective. They're doing a massive outlet sale and I got this belt and another really cool belt I'll show you in a second for £2 each. So this is other said cool belt. It's just really jazzy. And again, it's navy, so it will pair really well with some of the hats and dresses that I have. I got this little brooch, which I thought was really cool. And again, it's a really nice way to put out colours in the outfit. Actually, it goes really well with this dress and cardigan. I have hundreds of brooches. Ooh, we're shaking. I have hundreds of brooches and I really want to make a wall hanging with all of my brooches on so I can actually see them. At the moment they're in a big dish and I forget which ones I have because they're all buried under one another. This is one piece I absolutely love. Try and get my face out of it. It's a bracelet handmade by Dolly Rock Design. She does awesome vintage style, really quirky jewellery. I have matching earrings. There is a matching necklace that I didn't buy but I regret not buying and I might have to get in the future. But again, I love the yellow, and again you could have a really plain cream outfit on with this and a yellow cardigan. I think it'd be so cute. Another beautiful item. This is a bracelet. It's original vintage. I have no idea from when, but I found it in an antique market. On the same visit, I got this amazing necklace, which again would go marvellously with this outfit. I got this necklace and I have worn this over the tops of high neck knits and I think it looks ultra chic. Same colour theme, a little bracelet that I picked up at the same time, again original vintage from an antique market. Now let's talk handbags. Some of these are new, some of these are vintage. So this was again from an antiques market, original vintage, would be really cool with a black dress and a red cardigan and go super matchy matchy. This is a wonderful gift from my mother. It's a reproduction vintage bag and it's beautiful and Barbie, and actually it opens like a barrel, if I can show you. Yes, it opens like a barrel, so it's actually really good for knitting. If you wear it over your side and put your knitting in, you can knit straight from it, as long as the project isn't too big. Sorry I shook you because I chucked that bag down too hard. Another original vintage that I found in a charity shop. It was absolutely disgusting and needed a clean, but once I cleaned it up it looks beautiful. This is really great with a pair of brown shoes to just tie an outfit together, and I wear it often when I've got my beige trench coat on over my beautiful dresses. Lastly, one that's a bit bigger. This is a modern bag from June, I think, that I got in TK Maxx, but I tied a vintage scarf on it and it's nice to pair your outfit or find some colours in the scarf and in the outfit. I think that goes really nicely, and then a pair of nice black heels. So that gives you a feel of how I will accessorise my knits. Let's actually get onto the knits now. I just thought I'd talk to you a little bit about the knits that I wear, and rather than get them all out and try them on, I actually did this for you a little while ago, so I'm going to pop in some other versions of me styling these for you. So I wear the cardigans that I've made quite a lot, so the Delacour cardigan and the Princess twin set cardigan. I wear my cropped jumpers a lot, like my plain version of the Betty and Judy Lodge sweater and the Royale sweater. Then more recently, I have been wearing my new designs very frequently, so the Bonnie cardigan and the Vera cardigan, which I'm already wearing for you. So as you can see, there are a ton of cardigans, everything's cropped, everything's fitted. There's a very obvious colour theme going on, and maybe that's where one of my gaps is. So as you can see from me going through some items in my wardrobe that's still open to me and not packed away, I actually think I closely mirror my Pinterest inspiration boards. I think there's a lot of the same theme, feeling as what you see in some of the inspirational images I popped up at the beginning. There's a lot of colour, there's a lot of hourglass and accentuating silhouette, so I particularly drift towards wiggle dresses, which are very obvious but don't fit me very much at the moment, and the more nipped in waist and then circle skirt bottoms. I do have a few pairs of trousers that I don't wear very often, and I have got a couple of cigarette pants that I would like to wear more once I'm able to, when baby is here. Now it's time to conduct a little gap analysis. So as you will see from going through both my actual wardrobe and my knitted wardrobe, there are some really great matches that work really successfully for me, and these are particularly cardigans that are cropped and fitted because they go with all of my dresses. I think the silhouette generally I've really cracked. I don't have as many pieces as I would like to go with my wardrobe, but I think the silhouette part I've mastered, or I'm sure I will refine it as I continue to make things over the years, but generally something that's cropped and fitted will go with my vintage wardrobe. And I think maybe I can play a little bit with ease, and that a fitted waistband but more volume in the body, for example, would also go. I think it's more about getting that cinched in waist rather than the fitted ease across the whole piece. I'm definitely interested in making a few items that have a bit more positive ease but are ultra cropped or have a cinched in waist to balance out what I have. I don't want everything to be super fitted. The big gap though, I think, in my knitwear is colour. Now you would have seen that a lot of what I own is blue, which is great because for me blue is 100% a neutral, as is pink. And I have lots of different shades of blue and they do go with a lot of my wardrobe, but it is quite limiting. I would like some items that aren't blue, or pink for that matter, although several more of those are inevitable because they are truly my favourite colours to wear. I think what I really need is some neutrals. I'm getting myself out of breath because I'm getting so excited. So I think I need some whites. I really like, I know people are sort of polarising white, isn't it? Some people really hate to wear it, some people really like to wear it. For me, white is way more flattering than a beige. Beige, camel, oat, all of those colours that everyone seems to gravitate towards nowadays, browns, look horrendous on me, so I will not be using those for the most part unless I find a really specific tone that works well with my skin tone. I find they just wash me out. So white or cream, like a cool leaning cream, I think is definitely missing. I think maybe I'll go down the grey route. That's more my kind of neutral. Again, I need the cool tones rather than the warm tones. But I definitely want some more staple pieces in neutral colours that complement a lot more of my wardrobe. I also have found that I wore my black Norma turtleneck quite a bit, even though generally I would say navy is my dark neutral rather than black. Sometimes black can be a little bit harsh, but maybe a few black and also some more navy pieces would work well for me, even though I did just say I'm not going to make more blue. Another staple shape for my wardrobe that I would like to make more of is things like the tumble tee. So the fitted, very lightweight jumper with short sleeves. I think in the UK this will last me all year round, but especially in the spring, summer and just general transitional weather. It's a really good layering piece to have. But what I really like, which helps achieve a very 50s look, is, again, like I did with this cardigan and this dress, is to make them in a few different colours, but pick those colours from details in the dresses. So if I have, I don't know, a red dress with white polka dots, then the tee would be in white. Or if I have a, no, I can't think of my wardrobe even though I've just gone through it. If I have a, I don't know, pink dress with blue flowers on it, then I would make a blue t-shirt to go with it. I'd love the idea of a yellow t-shirt, so maybe I can find a circle skirt that's green with yellow flowers and then find the same yellow to make a t-shirt in. I think they would make really beautiful pieces. Now I'd have to be careful and not make a t-shirt that only goes with one dress or one skirt. I'm going to have a much deeper look into my wardrobe and find reoccurring colours so that I know that it's worth knitting on tiny needles, but this is definitely a shape I want to do more of. Another approach to colour, which is very 50s, is to try and match my accessories rather than my clothes themselves. Now this would lend itself to being more usable and versatile because I have less accessories than I have clothes, and I use the same accessories for lots of different clothes. So if I tied the colours to the accessories, again it makes it much more wearable. So I would have a look at my hats, handbags, gloves, I love a summer glove, and pick out some colours that reoccur and knit some items that match these. That would go really, really nicely. So actually I have a couple of navy hats and I could wear them with this cardigan and it would tie the whole look together, and it doesn't really matter then, as long as it's not a completely clashing colour, what colour the dress is I'm wearing underneath. Another gap I saw in my wardrobe is the lack of elevated knits or textural knits. I lean very heavy on the stockinette projects because I find them to be so versatile and I love them, and for me a lot of knitting is meditation, and if I don't have to concentrate, I just keep my hands busy, it really, really calms my mind. There is some benefit definitely from being absorbed in a pattern that you have to follow closely, but sometimes my brain's really busy and I just need the physical rest, and stockinette and that repetitive motion is really great for me. However, looking at it from a wardrobe perspective, I think a few more knits that I'm really proud of that have some quirkier elements to them or more interesting design details or texture would really go a long way. Now a lot of my dresses are quite busy, but I do have some very plain ones, and I could pair the textural knits with the more plain dresses to give it a bit more of a interesting, I don't know how many times I'm going to say the word texture, a textural vibe, and just an area of interest for the eye. So let's talk patterns. I am going to go through a handful of patterns and designers, well maybe a little bit more than a handful because I like more than a handful. So I just threw myself entirely. I'm going to go through some designers that I really like with also a focus on some of their patterns. So first of all, you will all have guessed it because I've made a lot of her patterns already and have a lot in my queue that you would have seen from my video last week or the week before. My Oslo knitting video features her quite heavily. In fact, I think every video I've ever made features her quite heavily. I'm going to stop rambling and say it's Fable Knitwear. I can't even get her name right. Fable Knitwear. She's an amazing designer for modern vintage. She has a really unique point of view that I don't really see anyone else doing. I really like that she has a vintage feel, but it feels almost antique-y, so there's a real mix of vintage. It's not just stuff from the 50s that I like. I'd actually say a lot of it is quite a bit earlier, but depending on colours and the way that you fit the garment to your body, you can make it look a whole host of vintage really. I think it's quite easy too. Her patterns are clear and easy to follow, but I would not say that they are beginner friendly. They assume that you know a fair amount. So for the most part they're good, but I think again Scandinavian patterns for the most part aren't as hand-holdy as some of the English or American designers out there. So I think they're really great, but I wouldn't recommend them as a starting pattern. Let's take a look at some of the ones I love. So firstly, the Forest Berry jacket. I won't talk too much about this because I've already talked about it a lot in previous videos, but I intend on making this in a lilac colour, which I think would be perfect for spring. I see it paired with some of my navy dresses to bring a spring brightness to some dresses that feel otherwise a bit more wintry. Another one I've talked to death is the Delacour cardigan, one I've made before and intend to make again soon, in a yellow, again with yarn that I picked up from my Oslo trip. This again would give spring yumminess to an otherwise plainer outfit, so I'm very much looking forward to wearing this. The Minerva cardigan, this is a languishing whip I have that I started last summer and haven't finished. I have picked it up again recently, so I intend on getting this finished for this summer. I'm knitting it in a very pale blue with a yarn with a fair amount of silk content on it, and it feels amazing, so I'm very much looking forward to finishing this one. I see it paired with things all throughout the year. It has a wintry feeling because of the ice blue, but I also think that light blue reminds me of summer. I included this last one just for a mix up on the cropped cardigans. We've got a peplum here. So a peplum is the Queenie cardigan is the peplum cardigan. We have a really good way of having a defined waist, especially if you were to put a belt over the top of the cardigan. You could really define your waist, and I find peplums are incredibly flattering. They can cover the food bloat, or maybe, well, nothing can cover the pregnancy bloat right now, but also if you are smaller in the hips, they can give you hips, or they can just complement and sit nicely across your hips for a really nice hourglass figure. The next designer I want to talk about is Poison Girls. Again, another obvious one if you are a follower of vintage knitwear design. She also makes modern versions of older patterns. What I like about Poison Girls and the contrast between Fable Knitwear and Poison Girls is she's quite set in her 50s era. It has a very heavy 50s bad girl vibe. It gives me Diana Dawes. It has a very unique perspective, whereas Fable Knitwear is more romantic and slightly further back in the past. Poison Girls is quite firmly in the 50s with a bit more attitude, which I really quite like, although I definitely dial down some of her patterns in my colour choices because I think I'm a bit prissy and prim and proper in my style, not in my attitude, for some of her patterns. I think they're really cool, really easy to follow. I love her whole branding and the patterns. However, I think, yeah, I'm less of that, my style is less of that 50s bad girl and more of the 50s goody two shoes. One pattern of hers I really would like to make is the Dotty cardigan. I have added this one in here because it's a bit heavier weight than some of the, well, many of the fingering weight designs I'm going to be going through. This will probably be more of an autumn make rather than a make that's going to happen anytime soon, but I think I would get a ton of wear out of this, and I know it's quite plain and boring, but I think one in black with really cool buttons would be amazing and really easy to wear. So I'm going to talk about two patterns at the same time here. We've got the Frenchy blouse and the tongue-tied blouse. I've actually had these in my library for years. I think they were more my style a while ago because I also made the Rizzo blouse at the same time I made this, which I don't actually wear very often. I think that's more down to the fit though than the style. I think I would wear these, but maybe in really neutral colours, pair them with some very fitted pencil skirts. I do definitely see a space for these in my wardrobe, even though they're not my go-to obvious choice. Also, now I'm saying it out loud, they actually might give some of that visual interest or textural elevated knit that I discussed because they're not just stockinette. So maybe actually these need to be bumped up a bit higher in my queue. You simply cannot talk about vintage knits without talking about the Queen herself, Susan Crawford. I have multiple books by her, the Stitch in Time volumes 1 and 2, Jubilee knits, a collection of her knits in my Ravelry library, and I have only actually made a couple. I made a lot when I first started knitting, but I've gifted those to my mum because my gauge was so loose. They're a little bit big for me, although to be fair, they'd probably fit now. I'm not sure I can steal them back though. Her gauge is much closer to vintage gauge. I find it to be very tight and difficult to get to. I do love making fingering weight projects. I do make fingering weight projects regularly, so that doesn't put me off, but I would have to size down quite significantly onto stupidly tiny needles to get gauge with her patterns. I think that's why the Princess twin set cardigan that I made is actually a bit bigger than it should be. I also use superwash for that, and I think I've learnt my lesson with her patterns. I think you definitely need a non-superwash yarn. I actually have a whopping 44 of her designs sitting in my Ravelry queue, and they definitely offer that elevated, textural, detailed, different knit requirement that I mentioned that I was looking for. And they are more invested pieces. They're quite often made the vintage way too, so they would be sewn up rather than knitted in the round, although it's not too hard to just convert those, I guess, but I find it a little bit of a barrier to get started. But I definitely want to make more of her patterns in the future. Next, I want to talk about Squidney Knits. To be honest with you, I'm just a little bit obsessed with her. I love her style, I love what she's doing, she's just super cool. I think her style really is true vintage, it comes across very authentic, so I am keen to make quite a few patterns by her. Some of the ones on my list include the home front tee, which you saw I picked up yarn for back in Oslo. This fits into that tumble tee category, but I think it's just that little bit more elevated with the extra details of the shoulders and things. So I definitely want to make this, and if it fits well, I see myself making plenty more. The Monroe sweater, I mean, do I need to give you another reason? My very first example of inspiration was Marilyn Monroe, and this sweater is to die for. It's a replica of her original one from some gorgeous photos I've seen of her. I have white yarn to make this and will be making this, but it will be more of an autumn piece for me. Again, I'm going to talk two at the same time here. So we've got the Rose Street cardigan and the Four Seasons blouse. I have included these and I really like them because they are a longer cardigan, but again, because of the shape of them, you can belt them and make them very defined at the waist whilst not making them ultra cropped, which gives you lots of options for pairing and just makes some of the silhouettes more interesting. Now let's talk about Tasha Moss. Again, love her style. You can tell she's a sewist because her knitted patterns fit exceptionally well. I've already made the Royale pullover, which I wear a ton and really enjoyed making. Legendaire, again, I like this one because the silhouette is completely different to a lot of the patterns I've shown so far. I think it's really cool and would be really flattering and lend itself to a more comfy look. I think personally I would do it in a solid colour, but I really love this one. Just imagine it with some cigarette pants and heels. I'm feeling it. And lastly, the Wonderella. I have been obsessed with this since it came out. It's absolutely beautiful, and again has that really nice dropped underarm, which is a bit unique compared to all of the other patterns that I've spoken about. So lastly, on the pattern front, I would like to go over a few individual patterns that are not from designers that specialise in vintage knitwear, but have patterns that would lend themselves very well to this style. So first of all is the Late Summer Wrap by Pernille Larsen of Knitting for Olive. I actually have a kit for this in, yes, you've guessed it, pink. It's like an old pink, it's delicious and I'm really excited to make. I just haven't got around to making it yet. It is fairly high up in my queue, but I think a wrap cardigan, again, you can cinch the waist really nicely. It's very easy to pair over dresses and a very flattering feminine look. Now this one has pink in the name, you just can't get away from it with me. The Vintage Pink Cardigan by Nora Gorn. I have had this in my queue and actually started making it when I first learnt to knit donkeys years ago. I think this is so cool and different, and I haven't really seen anything else like it. Since the day that I found it, what I actually wanted to do is make a matching fitted skirt and make it look like a Chanel suit, like the vintage Chanel suits. I just have this vision in my mind. I can't remember if I started making it in baby blue or baby pink, but I wanted one of each. Originally I was trying to make it in plain yarn, which it just didn't work. I was a very new beginner, but now I see it in like a baby blue or baby pink or baby colour but tweed yarn and make it look like one of those Chanel suits. I have the vision. I don't know when I'm going to execute it, but at some point in my life this is going to happen. The Bed Jacket by Disco Stitch. Love this. I actually haven't spoken much about this. You see it more in original vintage patterns rather than in the new ones, but bed jackets were a big thing back in the 50s and I would like to wear them out, not just to bed, but I like that inspiration that Disco Stitch has taken, and she's made it in very bright colours. I think I would make them in more muted colours, but I think this would pair really beautifully and give you a really feminine look over the tops of dresses. And lastly, My Boy Lollipop top, I don't know if it has top on the end, by Nina, I don't know if it's Richie or Ricky. She has captured a classic shape that would look amazing with a pencil skirt and a pair of heels. This is just a normal top, it's very plain, Very simple, but it's a very elegant neckline that I think would be really flattering on everyone. The very last thing I wanted to cover off before I sign off is about my designing. So this analysis that I've done with you today is actually what I've been doing in order to line up my next few designs. I was looking at my wardrobe, identifying the gaps and thinking, and then also looking at knitting patterns that exist and thinking, where is there a gap of knitwear that I cannot find a pattern for, and would fit really nicely into my wardrobe. And that is exactly how this pattern came about. I really wanted something that was warm, that kept my arms warm, but showed off as much of the dress as possible, and then also gave a really defined waist. So I couldn't find anything that had a V as deep as this, and that had minimal coverage but maximum warmth. So that is exactly where this pattern came from. So if you are interested, I would love for you to test for me. Please make sure you apply below. I will also let you into a little secret, because it's been taking up far too much space in my brain. My next pattern I'm working on is a capelet. So again, you don't see very many capelets being released nowadays, and even the older vintage ones, I think there's a gap. I see a gap and I have taken it. So I have some beautiful cotton merino yarn to make a summer version, but I see both summer and winter versions of this capelet in my near future. So that will be my next design, so stay tuned for that. So that's everything, folks. Thanks so much for listening and joining me, and I will hopefully be back next week with a roundup of my hiking functional dog walking knits, which I suspect probably won't go on for as long as this, because whilst they are fun and functional, they don't excite me the same way that my vintage wardrobe does. But there you go. See you next week. Oh, and don't forget to like, subscribe and comment, please. I really appreciate it. Thanks so much. Sending you all lots of loves and lots of loves. Sending you a lot of love and happy knitting. See you next week.